Hello, this is Jason P. Wilson, Zero and X-Force, and this is my Marvel and Image comic poll list for the week of September 7th, 2011, and today is the 8th, and it is Thursday. First up here for my Marvels is Thunderbolts, number 163. Now, I had mentioned this before, I made some cuts, and Thunderbolts is one that I cut. But it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying it, because I was quite a bit. I just had to decide which were the best of the best and keep those. But I had zero complaints. In fact, I was enjoying it quite a bit. I also mentioned that I got on by buying a really big collection of near mint, brand new, never read Thunderbolts, going way back. But I started reading them at I forget the number, but it was right when Cage. It was the first of the new Thunderbolts with Cage at the head of the team. So, before that, I had really not read Thunderbolts at all. So I immediately really liked it. I liked how you had a bunch of heroes. You had a bunch of villains that were led by a hero, and these villains were coming from the raft. These are super villains, and they're in the raft, high security prison of Shield, and I liked that they're trying to make amends by working for the heroes and doing good, but at the core they're still villains. So I like that quite a bit. I didn't read any of the Dark Avengers stuff where the Thunderbolts became the Avengers for all. I didn't read any of that, but I did know about it. So I really liked it, and the artwork would go back and forth, but it was always edgy. In fact, the storytelling in general was edgy. Now, I heard about the other issues that I haven't read yet, that before Cage took over, it was quite darker. It was a much darker comic. I felt that it still had its edge. It was a very edgy, dark comic, but at the same time, it was kind of light and fun. So I really liked it, but at the last few issues, it was the Fear Itself tie-ins. It was really good. It was quite good. In fact, my favorite part was probably with the whole before that, with Juggernaut getting in trouble and having some problems, and the Thunderbolts trying to help. So that was pretty cool. It's my favorite story arc so far. But I was liking the Fear Itself, and I was really enjoying it where it was going. And then the last issue, there was this big deal that happened. I won't say too much, but basically we had a split of a team. You had some major character turn away, and so the team changed. And I was like, okay, it didn't feel like it was the end of the story arc. It felt like there was more to be said and done. So my plan was, okay, what I'm going to do is, even though I cut it from my saver, I'm going to keep my eye out. And even though they're kind of hard to pick up, because comic stores don't usually order a ton of them, I'm going to really try and finish the story arc. So I picked this up, and I noticed it said first issue of a new era, and I thought, that's kind of weird, because I could have sworn the story arc didn't end. But I took it home, and I read it, and man, I really liked it, which is really unfortunate, because I did read the end of the story arc. It just had a nice little cliff end to it. And this is the first, like it says, the first issue of a new era. And first off, I really like the artwork much better than I've been liking the artwork. If there's one complaint I had about Thunderbolts, it was the style of artwork was interesting, but it was kind of like what I call messy. Messy to me is when an artist tries to be really stylish to the point where he doesn't control his lines. And even though it's interesting to look at, and sometimes I can really appreciate it, especially if it fits the story, like the last issue of Batman and Robin, for instance. But a lot of times it's just the style of the artist. So that, I think, is messy, and even though I appreciate it and I understand that it was on purpose, I don't always like it, and usually I don't. So that was probably my one complaint of Thunderbolts of the last few issues. So I cut it, but after picking up this issue, The artwork was really good. It was the best Thunderbolts has looked in a while. Now, I've said this before too. Number one for me is storytelling. Okay, it's all about storytelling for me. But I do like my comics to look pretty. I mean, I enjoy the artwork quite a bit. I'm very visual. So even though it's the story that makes it or breaks it for me, the writing. For me, the enjoyment level is really increased or decreased depending on the art. So Thunderbolts, first issue of a new era, number 163, was really beautiful, and the artwork, especially for Thunderbolts, was really fresh. And I'm now going to have to struggle in my head if I really want this comic not to be in my saver, because really cool, and I kind of like where they were going with the story. Basically, you see Captain America on the cover here. I won't blow it, but something happens where the Thunderbolts go through a barrier, if you will, and end up being in the golden age of heroes back during World War II time with Captain America. So it was really cool, and if I don't pick it up, if I don't put it in my saver, I definitely will be tempted to pick up future issues. Really good. And I do recommend that anyone who is thinking about Thunderbolts, this is a great issue to jump on. It is definitely the first issue of New Era. And if you've never read Thunderbolts but you wanted to, this is the issue to get right here, 163. And next up here is one of my favorite ongoings of Marvel, and that is X-23 14. Now, I've been reading this since the beginning, and for the most part, I've been very happy with it. The writing has been at least solid, at best great, and the artwork has been either quite good or very good. Sometimes they did what I hated, which is they would have two artists on one book. Now, come on. I don't think they've ever had a exercise issue with X-23. It's just 32 pages, so I get confused when they would have multiple artists on one of these normal-sized comics. So there was a story arc a couple issues ago, and basically you had artwork by artists that I liked and artwork by artists that I didn't really care for too much. And instead of even maybe half the book being one and half the book being the other, it would be like 2 pages and then 3 pages, and then back to the other artist for 3 pages and then 2 pages. It was really weird, and it really pulled me out of the story, which I was enjoying quite a bit. So that's been my only complaint. It's happened once in a while with X-23. Thankfully, though, they haven't been doing that lately. I'll say lately because it always seems to come back, that issue. But starting with the last issue, X-23 has been dealing with FF, which is really cool because I read FF, and I put it back in my saver recently because I just couldn't let go of it. But very, very cool because these characters in FF, especially here Ben Grimm, their interaction with X-23 is quite enjoyable. X-23, she is a character who can rub people the wrong way, not because she means to, but anyone who reads this, if you watch Star Trek, she's kind of like Data. She doesn't really understand emotion, and she doesn't understand anything, how other people process it. She's very robotic when it comes to her emotions. So she doesn't have any people skills whatsoever. So it was very interesting to see her interact with these characters. And Susan Storm actually really took to X-23 and really kind of mothered her, and that's really cool. Plus you have the kids in here too. Power Pack's in here, and their interaction with Spider-Man, and then X-23 mixed in there. It was really great. I think this is one of the funnest and most enjoyable story arcs in X-23 that I've read since the beginning. My only complaint with this issue is even though they're not switching artists, this particular artist is not my favorite on X-23. He's done it before, and even though I like it, and sometimes I like it quite a bit, especially when he's doing like Spider-Man and stuff. It looks really good. But the costume of X-23 is very unique, so it can be drawn and it can look, sexy or athletic, or it can be drawn and look really weird, like out of place. And this artist doesn't really know what to do with the midriff on this costume. It's basically a two-piece costume, and you have to sell that, because if you don't sell it right, it looks kind of stupid. Like, why are you wearing that? Why would you wear that uniform? It doesn't make sense. Or like the FF uniforms, whether you like them or not, they make sense. You can see why they would wear them. So X-23 costume has never been the best, and I like it when they make her change clothes a little bit, because to me it makes sense. Like, she's a teenage girl. She would want to change her clothes a lot. She would like to have different outfits. But her official X-23 uniform has always been questionable. Now, when it's drawn well, it's very attractive. It makes her look, attractive and sexy without her trying to, because her character is not that kind of character, even though she has a questionable past. But that's not really what she does. So her picking this uniform, I guess because she's a teenager, that makes sense. But you have to draw it well, and this artist doesn't. Now, the cover looks good, and the cover is not who draws the comic inside. But it just looks awkward. There's just like certain poses she's doing with this costume just makes it look really like weird, and like a teenager would not look that uncomfortable in a outfit that is hers. So anyways, that's my only minor complaint. Everything else about it has been great, and the writing was very solid, so it was really good. Next up is a one-shot. Now, I love Wolverine and Deadpool one-shots. There was I think one X-23 one-shot, and I would definitely pick up hers. But Wolverine is one that I don't follow his ongoing, even though I'm always interested in it. But what's kept me away from the Wolverine ongoing is the artwork. I haven't been a fan of the artists that have been doing Wolverine since its relaunch, so it's kept me away. But I always go for the one-shots, and this one I actually thought was going to be a limited run, and I was very interested in it. So when I picked it up thinking it was going to be a limited run, I was looking through it and I was like, oh wow, I really like this artwork. It's really interesting. It's pretty cool. I've seen this artist before. I've enjoyed what he's done before. This story also involves Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. So I was really enjoying how the panels were done. And you can tell by the cover of how this artist handles the book. Very unique. Almost like a 60s style with the panels and stuff. Then I looked on the top and I saw it was just a one shot, and I was like, oh, okay, that's it. I'm getting it for sure. It was a good read. It was a little bit bigger than a normal comic, and the price was right, $2.99. But the action sequences were just great. I might be doing a open book review on this one. I really enjoy when Logan looks like Logan. He's not dressed up like Wolverine, and that happens in here a lot. So the way the artist handles the characters too is really unique. And for me, I really like this art style, and the story was quite good. Usually when you get a one shot, it's not, the pacing is off. But this one shot, the pacing's right on. And I think it has to do with the way that they're able to squeeze so many panels on one page and keep the action moving. So this was a really fun read, and I would recommend this. Next up is number 3 of a limited run of Red Skull Incarnate. This is the telling of the origins of Red Skull, and it's been really good. Since issue number 1, the writing and artwork has been very captivating and has really drawn you in. Now, I've been loving the covers of all these issues, and I already know I'm going to love all of them. They're very, retro World War II, and it's made to look like propaganda, like the posters back then, and instead of it being, Nazi propaganda, which it is, it's Red Skull propaganda. And it's really cool. Like, I don't know if you can see with the camera, but it looks like it's folded. So this looks like it's a propaganda poster that's been folded and kept flat for quite a while, and then unfolded and put up. The creases are really look real. In fact, I looked at I thought for a second that the cover was damaged. I was like, what happened? Oh, wait a minute. That's the artwork. Really cool, really well done. Love the covers. The story and artwork inside is also just great. They could not have had a better art style for this story, and I can't imagine at this point this not being one of the great limited runs of the year. It's been a surprise. I was very interested in it, but I was blown away, and this continues the greatness of this limited run. I can't say enough good things about this. And last from my Marvel is another limited run. This is 3 of 4. I mentioned this before. I've been getting this for me and my nephew, and it's Halo Fall of Reach, and this is the Covenant issue, and this is second to last before the end of the story arc. It's been really good. Out of all of the Halo stories that Marvel has done, and I've read them, this is my favorite. It's really doing it well. The art style is very interesting, but it's really about the writing, and it's really about the orientation of the characters. It's a very strong character-driven story plot, and you really are sucked into these characters. And even if you're not a science fiction fan, which I am, I would definitely recommend this series. At this point, it'd probably be easier for you to pick it up on trade, and it will come on trade pretty quick. So yeah, it's a really good issue, and I do recommend it to anyone who's interested in Halo or science fiction. Alright, next are my images, and first up for my image is 50 Girls 50 number 4. I want to say this real quick. Okay, I love Marvel, and I love DC, but they have a lot of advertisements in them. I mean, I'm paying $2.99, $3.99, sometimes quite a bit more, and I'm getting a lot of advertisements in my comic books. 50 Girls 50 and my other image, which is Morningglories, has no advertisements in it. It has advertisements in the very beginning and the very end, and that's it. So not only am I getting great artwork, I'm getting great storytelling, and I'm not being interrupted by blatant, ugly advertisements that are in my face and pulling me out of the story. I don't want commercials if I'm paying full price for my comic. I understand it's the part of the industry. I get it. But if Image can give you a great comic that's second to none in artistry and storytelling, and not give you any commercials, why can't Marvel and DC do that? I just have such a high respect for Image. They are constantly producing great comics at great prices with no advertisements, no commercials. I am really being won over by Image lately, and I love this. And there's a couple advertisements for there at the very end of the book. When your story's over, at the very end, there's some advertisements and these beautiful panels of these upcoming books, and they look really good. The future looks really strong for Image, and the 3 that I saw in the end of this book, I'm definitely going to be picking up. This was a great comic. 50 Girls 50 is great. I hope it's as big as I think it's been. So we'll definitely get a second story arc. Really good. This is probably my favorite issue of the 50 Girls 50 thus far. And next up is my Image number 12 of the very popular Morningglories. Even though I think 50 Girl 50 at this point is a better comic, Morningglories is a much more popular comic at this point. It's really good. Again, no advertisements, only, they advertise their own books in the very, very beginning and the very, very end, and that's it. Nice and clean and clear, fantastic artwork, and finally, we're getting back on story and we're not focusing on the individual characters. We're back on, and I'm really excited to see the next issue because this one was a really good one. I was way into it from page 1, and the way it ends, I'm really like salivating about the storyline. And it shows the cover of the upcoming one, and it looks like it's going to be a really good one. Morningglories, great as always. I love this comic book, and again, it's another reason why Image is just going higher and higher on my shelf as a fantastic, if not one of the best comic companies. And I'm definitely adding 3 to 4 new Image to my collection and making room by cutting out other comics. Really good. Image is just fantastic. Now, I will mention this here at the end. This was given to me free. I got a couple trades, and the comic book store sent me this. It's Parts Unknown number 2. I never read number 1. This one's signed by one of the 2 of the creative team. And it is interesting. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I probably wouldn't buy it. It's black and white, which I don't mind. I used to read ElfQuest, and that was black and white, and I liked it that way. But it's, like I said, I don't like messy art, so the art on this was very, very messy. Even though the story was interesting, it had a mature theme to it, but didn't go too far. And the beefy characters, even the females are kind of beefy here. It was kind of like action-oriented. But the artwork was just really, really messy. And it's supposed to be. It's made to be very, messy and sketchy. It's a black and white, so I'm sure they do these big, huge pages with lines going everywhere. But for me, the story was just interesting enough to keep on reading. And the artwork at times was just bad. Just bad. But I wouldn't, like I said, I might check out a trade. Maybe I'll enjoy it if I read a full trade. I might go ahead and try that. I do appreciate them sending me a free comic, and it's cool that it was signed. So I will keep it. But the art style and the stories just wasn't connecting with me, even though I just was reading issue number 2. But with that said, those are my Marvel and Image. I'd like to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.